He stood alone, surrounded by the void. Owen Reese, the Molecule Man, had always been something of an oddity even among the most powerful entities in the Marvel Multiverse. His power, the ability to manipulate molecules at a fundamental level, was said to be absolute. But despite that, he was never quite comfortable with it. He wanted to be left alone. He wanted peace. But peace, in the multiverse, is a fragile thing. When you hold the keys to all reality, peace comes less from what others do, and more from the choices you make. And today, Owen decided it's hard to pinpoint why the turning point came. Maybe it was another world-ending crisis. Maybe one too many cosmic threats showed up at his doorstep, desperate for his help or afraid of his power. Maybe it was simply loneliness realizing that, even surrounded by infinite possibilities, every version of himself was just as lost as he was. He raised his hand, and billions of universes trembled. The fabric of reality, those shimmering sheets that separated world from world, began to fry. A soundless quake rumbled through the infinite. Even those who were called gods, even entities like Eternity and the Living Tribunal, Winston turned away. At first, no one noticed. In a multiverse of endless permutations, with a Spider-Man who was a pirate, a Captain America who swore allegiance to Rome, a Dr. Doom who ruled with kindness, what difference did one world make? But then they started vanishing. In one reality, Reed Richards looked out over the skyline and saw the city unravel like paint stripped from a canvas. In another, a 1,000-year peace was snuffed out in the span of a heartbeat. Worlds fell by the dozen, then the 100, then the million. The other cosmic powers tried to intervene. The Beyonders, the Celestials, the Phoenix Force, it didn't matter. Molecule Man's power stemmed from the underlying laws. He could change constants, rewrite entropy, erase the fundamental forces holding strings and quarks together. Every hero and villain with the vision or the arrogance to challenge him merely fell away, reduced to component atoms, wiped from every possible history. It wasn't anger that drove him. It was an empty patience, the exhale of a being forever at the whim of stories he never wrote. Dr. Doom, his oldest frenemy, sought him out across the crumbling vestiges of space. "Owen, stop!" he cried, his own power glimmering like a candle. "You're unraveling everything, all of us. All of this." Owen barely looked at him. "It never mattered, Victor," he said. "We begin, we end. Over and over. The same patterns, the same mistakes. Even the one above all, that silent architect who lingered at the edges of creation, was forced to watch. The multiversal palaces fell. The worlds of what if, the realms of future and past, all snuffed out like so many lights. And yet, for Owen, there was no triumph. There was only the unraveling. The making and unmaking of everything was, frankly, as easy as breathing. He had done it to stave off the boredom, or to force a change. But destruction, eterned, was as hollow as creation. A final universe remained, trembling before him, a world no different from a billion others, a city, a sky, a motley cast of superhumans, desperately fighting to patch holes in reality as their own existence flickered. He reached out, molecules unwound. Space twisted, folding back into nothing, and then quiet. For the first time, there was truly nothing. No watchers, no narrators, no cosmic chess players. Eternity was gone. Infinity was gone. Even the stories that would have been told were plucked from the potential sea. Owen Reese found himself staring into the void, the real one. Now, a silence unbroken except by the disquiet within. He considered remaking it, as he had 1,000 times before. He had the power. He could build new multiverses, spawn new heroes, new dramas, new failures and triumphs. But what would be different? Every multiverse, no matter how varied, inevitably circled the same truths. Power corrupts, love redeems, sacrifice is inevitable, and the cycle never ends. So this time, he did nothing. The emptiness stretched out, deeper than time, wider than any universe. It was over, and somewhere, in that endless dark Molecule Man sat and waited for a spark. A question? Or perhaps the first impulse to try again. Until then, all that remained was silence.